Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. We had a medium to sort of a longish meeting this week for the Select Board, and here's what we did. We started off with a moment of silence for Officer Sean Gannon, who, as we know, was tragically killed in the line of duty in Yarmouth last week. And he was a summer officer here on Nantucket in 2005.
Oh.
So we have a connection with him, and we had a nice moment of silence, and we sent a letter to his family, and we had some officers, including the chief, who went over for the service. So that was kind of somber. We started off with that somber moment. We then had an announcement about committee, board, and commission vacancies. There are a bunch of vacancies right now, and if you're interested in participating in town government, volunteering for something, please go to the town website, www.nantucket-ma.gov, and there's a list of everything that's available, and you could go to the page of whatever group you might be interested in and read about it.
How does this compare to last year's as far as vacancies go?
Well, what we don't know yet is how many incumbents are seeking reappointment. Letters go out to them to ask if they want to be reappointed, so I'm not really sure how many would be, like uncontested. But there's always a few. So, if you're interested in getting involved, which we always encourage, check it out. All right. Speaking of that, we made an appointment to the Town Government Study Committee. There had been a resignation, and Richard Ray, former town employee Ray, was appointed. And what else do we do? Okay, our big discussion probably was Wisconsin Beach Preservation Fund. They are seeking an expanded project, as you may know, for the bluff erosion control. And this was meant to be a discussion with public input about the project. So the proponent was there. The board really wanted, I think, people to sort of hear from it a little bit about the complexity of this issue. There are a lot of issues, both sides, and potentially a lot of cost involved either way. If, for example, the current project were not to be continued by the proponent, is the town going to take that on? Same with an expanded project. How long will the road remain there without some kind of erosion control associated with it? If and perhaps probably when the town will need to relocate that road, there's a very significant cost involved in that. It's not just moving the road, it's the utilities that go into it, sewer, water, there's other utilities, and there would in all likelihood be the necessity of taking private property to put the road in. So a lot of that research is happening now, and it's possible that those costs could potentially be bettered to the abutters. In other words, the abutters would be assessed, divided among them, the costs of that. But like I say, that could be very significant. That could lead to probably legal issues. So there's just a lot to consider. Where's the sand going to come from? How is it going to get there? What's the impact on the roads of heavy trucks with sand? Lots of things.
Jim brought up the fact that this comes up every time. Every time it comes up, there's a lot of discussion about it. I think people are starting to wonder why is this thing? Can't we just figure this out and just do it or not do it? I think people are getting tired of the controversy over.
Which part do you mean? The project?
We gave them the project for a 3 years test, right?
Basically.
Right. Basically, they want to expand it, and a group of people just cannot. They don't want it to happen. They want to squash it.
It seems that there's a group that has a lot of very significant concerns, yes.
So why is this, why can't we make up our mind right away and get this done and then move on to other things that we need to do on the island? This thing seems to be, it's sand we're talking about.
You could get the board members in and ask them. But there's, I
No,
think,
it's not, I don't blame them. I think that
there's a lot of issues. There really are.
Right? Concom is studying.
Well, the Conservation Commission will ultimately hear the application if the Select Board agrees to let it go forward, because you see a good amount of it is on town property. That's the issue.
Okay.
It's not entirely on private property. It's mostly on town property.
The beach is on town property.
The area where the geotube expansion would occur.
Yeah, okay, but if global warming exists, that's not going to be much left there's
Well-
not much left over for town property, and they're throwing sand on top.
Yes, right. I mean, you can either boil this down to something that seems like, what's the big deal? But you could also really dissect it and make it into a very
Well-
big deal. There's definitely different perspectives on this. So,
Matt Fee said, don't bring it, you know, I remember when Rita brought up the fact that what could happen, she's looking down the road, which is fair enough.
yep, I think the board definitely wants to
And
look down the
these guys
road.
could take legal action.
Yeah, and I
if they
think,
wanted to.
Yeah,
And
Matt-
they could make the town pay for it instead of them agreeing to pay for it now. It could turn, if they were to win the lawsuit, and make the town pay for it? Is that possible?
I don't even want to speculate on what would happen in a lawsuit. I don't know, because I don't know what
Right,
it would be
okay.
about.
I mean, I'm willing to bring it up because I think it's something that people should be aware of.
Yeah, well, they should definitely be aware that it's kind of
It's getting to a point
complex.
where, you know, either we let them do it or they're gonna take other action. Either give it up or
Well,
not.
that's
where we're at.
I don't know. We may be approaching that point.
When is there like an outside date that we know that something's gonna be done about
Well, I would expect within the next probably 6 to 8 weeks, the board will likely make a decision.
this? Okay.
So that was a lengthy discussion. We did hear some public comment about it. We had a couple of public hearings. Okay, we also had a pond openings update. And we had some public comment the prior week about pond openings. Oops, I just messed with my microphone.
Okay.
I hope that didn't make a weird noise. I forgot it was there and I thought there was something on me. Okay, because you know I don't like bugs and things on me.
No?
Yeah,
Oh, I mean-
no. You put a bug in here and I'm out.
You're
I'm
jumping.
out. I'm literally out the
What
door.
about snakes?
I don't really want to run into one, but if you put a moth in this room,
Oh, you're moth crazy.
I have a moth phobia, and I'm not kidding. I shouldn't even have
There's
said
a lot
that.
of people that do.
I'm not even joking about that. It is a phobia. Ask
My
anybody.
ex-wife has it too. I'm serious.
She and I should have a
Moths.
group. We should have a support group. I'm not kidding. It's not. Don't ever put one. Okay, I'm
All right, we gotta
getting
get back
sweaty.
to business.
gonna break out in the sweat.
The pond opening.
Okay, so the pond opening. So we had those public comment the week before. And so there are a number of people who have wet basements and mold and very unpleasant things associated with very high level of groundwater right now, some of which may be attributable to a lot of, there's been a lot of rain and the water in these ponds has risen, and there's a lot of other factors as well. So anyway, the Natural Resources Coordinator gave an update on where we are with the physical openings of the ponds. 2 of the ponds, Sakatcha and Hummock, are opened routinely annually in the spring and in the fall. Maya Comet is a pond that has not been manually opened by the town in a number of years, 15 perhaps. This year it was opened by unknown individual or individuals, and I'm sure their reasoning was to relieve this pressure so that people don't get wet basements. Anyway, we've sort of moved on from that, and independent of this pond openings update, for a while now, Natural Resources has been working on pond management principles or sort of guidelines, and it's meant to be a document that sort of, describes what the ponds, where they are, how big they are, what's kind of in them, and basically how they're managed. Are they opened or not? Are they managed as freshwater ponds or brackish? What environmental issues are in them? And each one has a little bit of a different environmental issue as well. So the Nantucket Pond Coalition, which is a group of homeowners on ponds primarily, has been also talking about pond management principles. And we have decided that it would be a good idea to have a public forum about pond management. So we are going to be scheduling that. I don't have a date right this second, but I will have one by next week. And I've sort of started compiling a list of people to notify to come to the forum. And the forum is just meant to be really an interactive discussion between concerned homeowners, both pro and con pond openings, and the town, so we can explain the constraints that people may or may not understand that we are under with regard to pond openings, and just some factors that should be considered. So that's going to be coming up. We had a bit of discussion about that. We had third quarter budget reports for some of the budgets, enterprise funds and the general fund. And that was pretty much it for last week's meeting. Next week, last Wednesday of the month, means we have real estate. We are also going to have an update about our coastal resiliency planning process. And there is information on the town website about coastal resilience, about our plan in a nutshell. Last fall, we hired a consultant. Their name is Malone and McBroom. They are also working on our hazard mitigation plan update. And the idea here is to get public input, community input as to what areas of the island, sort of by region, are we the most concerned about, and what types of actions would we want to consider taking to address climate change and sea level rise issues. For example, there's sort of three categories of addressing these issues: retreat, adapt, and protect. Retreat would mean, not doing anything more in this area. We're going to move back as we can.
Perfect example.
Potentially. Protect would mean, what are we going to do to protect this area? Are we going to have seawalls? Are we going to have geotubes? Whatever. Or adapt. Are we going to, so let's take downtown as an example. Are we going to implement regulations that require certain measures be taken when people are rebuilding buildings downtown or doing work on the waterfront? Do things have to be higher, thicker, wider, whatever? So we're going to be having a series of public forums about this starting on May 10th. We have another one scheduled July 18th. Information will be on the town website about this, and we'll be announcing it in shortly at board meetings. So this is an overview of that process. Our consultant will be present, and if people are very interested in this.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting, actually. At the beginning, I was sort of like, oh, great, one more thing to do. But this is a nationwide wave of things. Every town's going to have a coastal resiliency plan. In fact, the state of Massachusetts is rolling out what's called a municipal vulnerability program. And in order to be eligible for certain types of grants, your community will need to become certified as an MVP, it's called, community, which we are in the process of doing. So there's a lot to it. We have more third quarter budget reports next week for the departments we didn't do last week. We got some real estate issues.
We did hear from a couple of this week, right? Who did we hear? Budget reports.
Oh, we did, yeah. We had general fund, water, and island home.
Everything all right there?
Yes, for the most part, everywhere. It's all good. Next week, we've got, so 2 weeks ago, not last week, but the week before, we had 45 Surfside Inn. That is the restaurant at 45 Surfside. They were seeking an alteration of their premises. They have an annual wine and beer license. They would like to serve outside, and their license currently only allows inside service. So the board had a number of concerns and issues about it, and it was tabled. It's coming up again next week. Okay, we're also going to have a discussion about one of our other favorite topics, marijuana. A couple weeks ago, we had a presentation from town council, which was basically explaining the recently enacted state regulations. The Cannabis Control Commission is the state agency responsible for the promulgation of regulations of marijuana sales and activity in Massachusetts. And some of these regulations, they affect different towns in different ways. So right now, we have a moratorium on retail marijuana sales. Our current bylaw, so no one can have a retail establishment until our moratorium is over or changed. The moratorium is through December 31st, 2018. So we need to decide now, are we going to change any of our local bylaws to respond to these state regulations or not? So the board would really like to get some public feedback and input on this. And there are a lot of opinions about this. So their discussion on Wednesday is meant to be about how can we best get this public feedback? Do we want debates between pros and cons? Do we want forums where people just come in and say what they want, which we did have last fall prior to the moratorium? What do we want to do?
Yeah.
So
but
that discussion
we have to do something.
We need
we
to do
voted for
something.
it. the town overwhelmingly voted
Well-
for legalization, right?
Yes, overwhelmingly
So trying
might
to
be an
turn that back
exaggeration,
wouldn't make
but,
sense, would it?
well, there's a lot of opinions about it, Gino, let me
But,
just tell you that.
but we could go slow. We could.
Well,
we could-
we are going slow.
Yeah.
I mean, we already in the slow time
Yeah.
by doing the moratorium so that we can understand the state regulations before we try to put forward any kind of a bylaw. That is what's happened now. The state regulations are out. They've been reviewed by town council. We're looking at them and we want to know what the public thinks. So the board's discussion is meant to be about how are we going to get the best amount of public input? Do we do a survey? What, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that you can do. If you have any ideas, feel free to email us. So that's what's happening.
Okay.
Town meeting follow-up is still occurring. I've got to get on top of that.
Yeah.
And Daffodil Weekend's coming up. On Daffodil Weekend, there's going to be a sort of, I don't know what we're going to call it, opening ceremony kind of a thing for the newly renovated, rebuilt Sconset Flagpole Memorial. And it will be on Saturday of Daffodil Weekend out in Sconset at,
Okay.
I forget what time it's at, it might be at 1.
You're
So
gonna
if
be
you're,
there?
I am not sure if I'm gonna be able to be there or not, because I have existing plans. It's
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock,
1
The
o'clock
28th.
on that, oh,
the 28th, Saturday of Daffodil Weekend.
Oh, well, everybody's
out in Sconset.
there.
Exactly, so that's the whole point. Everybody's there.
oh, that'll be
So you're
fun.
gonna wanna get out there.
I'll be out there.
Yeah. So we're getting ready to, DPW is gonna be out doing lots and lots of cleanup between now and next week at this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I was watching the news last night. This is all over the state. Luckily, we didn't have the amount of downed trees that a lot of other communities had. There's a shortage of tree removal services and equipment right now in Massachusetts because every single town virtually is having to do all this cleanup of the trees. And the weather has been very difficult. It has not been in our favor
No, it
to
has
get it
not.
done more quickly.
Incredible. And the roads, obviously, you know.
Roads are obviously a problem. Yeah, and that's been very difficult with the weather. Also, you
got
can't
it.
fill a pothole in the rain.
Exactly.
Just can't.
Can't do it.
If you want to do it right, that is.
I'm ready for summer. I don't know
Me
about you.
too. There was
Man.
on the weather this morning. They said we're in sprinter right now.
I mean, right, this is expected until the 1st of May at least, this kind of coldish weather.
Middle of May.
Well, we don't really get a spring here anymore.
No, people say there's no spring. We go from winter to summer.
Yeah.
Summer could happen anytime now. I gotta get my seeds out, my garden
Oh,
planted.
yeah.
I haven't done any of
Better
that
get going.
yet. I know. Wow. How can I? I don't want everything will die if I put it out
Well, that's
there.
true, that's true.
All right. Thanks very much. See you next time.